As we start today's program, the U.S. flag that will be presented next to the podium is in memory of Sergeant Joseph Richardson, a former middle school student who died November 16, 2012 in service to our country. Today, we are celebrating Veterans Day. It is a day we stand and support our fellow Americans who have so proudly served our country in the armed forces. America has survived many battles fought bravely by our men and women in uniform. It is these men and women, both past and present, that we should remember on this day and by honoring and thanking them.
In 1780, the American patriot Thomas Paine wrote these words: "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman."
Some of you may ask, who is a veteran? A veteran is a person who has served in the armed forces, an experienced soldier, especially one and served in the time of war. A veteran is a man or a woman who has served in the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, or Air Force.
Veterans Day is a time to thank living veterans for their service, to show appreciation for their contributions to our national security, and to emphasize the fact that all those who served, not just those who died, have sacrificed and done their duty.
Today we are gathered to do just that, to offer our love and thanks to an unbroken line of men and women who have given service to their country. America's armed forces have always been prepared to defend our freedom and the freedom of others throughout the world.
More than 1 million American service members died in the service of this country. More than 1.4 million lived with the wounds they suffered while fighting for us. More than 25 million former service members are still living today. They are that special group of Americans we call veterans. Today we honor them and say, thank you for serving. Please stand and remain standing for the presentation of colors, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Who
The 7th and 8th grade band and chorus will now perform an American tribute under the direction of Mrs. Marisa Merkel and Mr. Kurt Kissinger. Boy Scout Troop 71 will now present the procedure of folding of the American flag.
The American flag is one of the most important symbols of the United States. Folding the American flag into a triangle gives unique honor and respect to the flag. The flag is folded to represent the original 13 colonies of the United States. Each fold also carries its own meaning. Here's an explanation of what each of the folds mean. The first fold of our flag is a symbol of life. The second fold is a symbol of the belief in eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veterans departing the ranks who gave a portion of their lives for the defense of the country to attain peace throughout the world. A fourth fold represents the weaker nature, for as American citizens trusting in God, it is to Him we turn in times of peace as well as in time of war for His divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to the country, for in the words of Stephen Doctor, our country in dealing with other countries, may she always be right, but it is still our country, right or wrong. The seventh fold is a tribute to its armed forces, for it is through the armed forces that they protect their country and their flag against all her enemies, whether they be found within or without the boundaries of the republic. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered into the valley of the shadow of death, that we might see the light of day. The ninth fold is a tribute to womanhood and mothers, for it has been through their faith, their love, loyalty, and devotion that the character of the men and women who have made this country great has been molded. The 10th fold is a tribute to the Father, for He too has given His sons and daughters for the defense of their country since they were first born. The 11th fold represents the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon and glorifies in the Hebrew's eyes the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies in the Christian's eyes God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The 13th fold, or when the flag is completely folded, the stars are uppermost, reminding them of their nation's motto, "In God we trust." After the flag is completely folded and tucked in, it takes on the appearance of a cocked hat, ever reminding us of the soldiers who served under General George Washington and the sailors and Marines who served under Captain John Paul Jones. who were followed by their comrades and shipmates in the armed forces of the United States, persevering for them the rights, privileges, and freedoms they enjoy today.
Thank you, Troop 71. The 7th and 8th grade band will now perform Armed Forces on Parade under the direction of Mr. Kurt Kissinger. Veterans, when the song for your branch is performed, please feel free to stand. Coast Guard veterans, may you please join the Navy in their song. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Jordan Weikert. Mr. Weikert grew up in Algona, Iowa, and graduated from Algona High School in 2001. He left for the Marine Corps basic training shortly after graduation. In the Marine Corps, he had the opportunity to train in places all over the world like Japan, Guam, South Korea, Germany, Ireland, Kuwait, Iraq, in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Mr. Weikert currently lives in Algona with his wife, Angie, his 2 children, William and Emery, and 2 dogs, Courage and Mariah. He currently works for the United States Postal Service. Please welcome Mr. Weikert.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to start by saying that I'm very honored to be here today and standing in front of you all. I'd like to also thank Mrs. Bowman for reaching out to me with this opportunity. I've spent a lot of time kind of racking my brain trying to figure out what I should talk about today. I think what I'm supposed to do is tell you about my military experience. What I plan on doing is I'm going to talk to you about some of the men that I served with and some of the veterans that have made an impact on my life. But unfortunately for you, I'm going to start with myself first. I was born and raised right here in Algona, Iowa. I attended Bertha Godfrey Elementary, Obie Lang Middle School, and the Algona High School. While I was growing up, I liked to do all the things that a kid in small town Iowa does. I rode my bike around town. I played pickup football games with all the neighborhood kids, and I burnt my garage down. It was an accident, Mom. Like most kids, I had dreams of doing things like playing football in the NFL or wrestling for Team USA in the Olympics. In high school, when all those full ride scholarships didn't come my way, I decided I probably needed to figure something else out. And that's where the military came in. I think deep down, I always knew that joining the military was something that I was going to do. My father, uncles, grandfathers all served. I also have a brother, Jared, who served in the Army National Guard and in Afghanistan. I always felt a sense of duty growing up, and I also, like many of the veterans here, I truly felt that our freedoms in this country and our way of life were all things worth fighting for. So my junior year of high school, I entered into some very intense negotiations with the Army and Marine Corps recruiters. My future hung in the balance, and one day the Marine recruiter called me up and asked me if I was ready to join. I shrugged my shoulders and said, all right, and off we went to the military processing station. Like I said, it was a very intense negotiation. Shortly after swearing in and taking my oath of enlistment, my recruiter took me to McDonald's to celebrate. Gets better. When we ordered, he had conveniently forgotten his wallet and asked if I could pay for his meal. I knew right then and there that I had made the right choice. A few days later, I received a phone call from the Army recruiter asking me if I'd like to go to Pizza Hut. I graciously accepted his offer, and after stuffing my face, the Army recruiter asked me if I was ready to go to the military processing station. I told him I'd already been there. Confused, he asked, well, when? I said, well, I went a few days with the Marine Corps recruiter. He sat up, went and paid the bill, and I never did see him again. Days after graduation, I left for the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego, California. I graduated on September 7th, 2001, and I got to come back to Algona for 10 days. On the morning of September 11th, 2001, I went for a jog with my dog. I know it's hard to picture me jogging, but this was a long time ago. On the way home, as I turned the corner, I saw my mother outside. As I got closer, she told me that we were being attacked. I went inside just in time to see the second plane hit the World Trade Center. And that day, everything as we knew it changed. So I returned to California after my 10 days of leave, and I attended the School of Infantry, where I learned how to shoot guns, blow things up, and walk 30 miles a day. After graduating there, I was assigned to my duty station, Camp Pendleton in southern, sunny California. Not a bad gig. Unfortunately for me, I was considered to be a strong swimmer, and I was assigned to a boat company known as the 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, also known as the Magnificent Bastards. While it was awesome to be considered a Marine Corps relator, I say unfortunately because there's really no good way to say this, but sitting out in the middle of the ocean on a Zodiac raft, wet and freezing, hoping that somebody wets their pants in order to warm you up is not my idea of a good time. I had the privilege of getting to travel all over the world. I had the opportunity to visit places like Okinawa and live in Okinawa, Japan. I was able to visit Iwo Jima and climb it to the summit of Mount Suribachi, where the famous photo of the Marines raising the flag was taken. I was also sent to war. I was sent to Ramadi, Iraq, in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. While there, I was able to see things that brought out the very worst in people, but I was also able to see things that brought out the very best in them too. Extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. I was able to meet and get to know people from all walks of life and share and experience some of the best days of my life. What I'd like to do now is I'd also like to take this time to speak with you about a few of the Marines that made an impact on me, made me a better Marine, and made me a better person in general. These are Marines that I share a very special bond with and lifelong friendship with. I still keep in contact with them to this day. Their names are Amir Hadari, Brandon Honeycutt, and Simon Aguirre. All three of these men were my roommates at one time or another during my military career. Amir was actually born in Iran. He came to the United States as a war refugee at 5 years old and then grew up in Washington, D.C. Brandon Honeycutt was from Sacramento, California. Brandon lost his father at a young age and started running with the wrong crowd and got into selling drugs as a teen. He joined the Marine Corps as a way out of that life. Simon was born in New York City and raised in Los Angeles, California. Simon was a guy that had never been camping outside until he joined the Marines. When I first met these guys, I wasn't sure we'd have a lot in common. They were all from large cities, and I was from right here in Algona, Iowa. We looked different, we dressed different, and we talked different. But after getting to know each of them, I found out that we had way more in common than I had ever imagined. We shared a lot of the same values and beliefs. Nearly every weekend, we were invited to either go home with Brandon to Sacramento, with Simon to Los Angeles, or we'd just stick around in Southern California together. I'd get to know their families, their friends, and where they grew up. Us four usually did everything together. So when we went to Iraq, because he was Persian and could speak and understand Arabic, Amir was able to go undercover in order to gain valuable intelligence for us. He was able to grow a beard, dress like and interact with the people of Ramadi every day. He was no doubt a very valuable asset for us to have, and he saved countless lives with the information he was able to obtain. Today, Amir is a business owner, and he lives with his family in Maryland. So when we were getting ready to wrap up our deployment in Iraq, many of us had already left, but there was a few that had to stay back, so we were kind of down to a skeleton crew. And Brandon Honeycutt was one of those men who stayed back. The Iraqi insurgents had caught word of this and launched an attack. During this attack, Brandon was shot in his left arm. He was patched up by a Navy corpsman, and he was back in the fight for another 2 hours. Brandon currently lives with his family in Sacramento, and he's a police officer in Lodi, California today. Around maybe 3 weeks into our deployment to Iraq, Simon Aguirre was assigned to a quick reaction force that was tasked with picking up a night patrol. Simon was in a Humvee. He was sitting directly behind the driver when an RPG struck the hood of the vehicle. The RPG ricocheted into the driver, who was killed instantly, and then ricocheted right into Simon's hand. They crashed into a bus stop and came to a stop while taking small arms fire. For whatever reason, the RPG did not explode that night. If it had, everyone in that Humvee may have ended up killed. Simon's hand was badly mangled, and he was flown to Baghdad to perform emergency surgery in order to save his hand. From there, he was flown to Walter Reed Hospital in Maryland. Doctors were able to save Simon's hand, and while he does not have full motion, he's able to use his hand after 6 surgeries. Today, Simon's retired from the Marine Corps, and he resides in Marietta, California. I wanted to take this time to share these Marine stories with you because they're stories that I feel are important and should not be forgotten. These are stories that are sewn into the fabric of our nation. And while we may not be perfect and we have our many flaws, I still truly believe that we are the best country in the world. We could not be that great country today without your service and sacrifice. And for that, I thank all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Weikert. We now come to the part of our program where we recognize our honored veterans. Students, if you have a veteran guest present today and you would like to pin their flower, please come forward when their name is called. Chris Adams. Doug Anderson. Doug Anderson. Mike Arndorfer. Ken Beaver. Hunter Berry. Mark Bierstead. Brad Balloon. Russ Bode. Robert Bolanos. Gib Busher. Jim Busher. Ron Chamberlain. Ken Clark. Ken Kopic. Oreen Kressler. Evan Deal. Megan Espeland. Roger Evans. Ivan Fry. Craig Giddings. Don Habiger. Chad Hansen. Jerry Helmers. Jeff Hersom. Gary Hoover. James Kelly. Frank Kern. John Kazadowski. Joe Kirkmeyer. Andy Cooper. Jamie Lentz. Joe Lobach. Dale Maines. Kenny Krapp. Jamie Maxwell. John T. McGuire. Dean Meyer. Randy Miller. Jeffrey Moore. Raymond Nielsen. Bill O'Neill. Will Phillips. Anna Posey. George Pruitt. Don Reefer. Ron Reefer. Bob Riedel. Phil Robidoux. Chuck Robinson. Dave Rozonsky. Mike Schaff. Steve Schaefer and Gary Schaefer. Reginald Schucher. Robert Spike. Chuck and Pansy Strite. Orlin Sudol. Jason Warden. Jordan Weikert. Ed Wilcox. Kenny Euban. If there are any additional veterans in the audience, would you please come forward to receive a flower? Elizabeth Kinsman, please come forward. Thank you. Do you have a student waiting for you? No. Okay. Excuse me. Sorry. Who are you waiting for? Sorry, you see. Let us show our appreciation to these veterans with a round of applause. The Algona Middle School would like to thank our honored veterans for their involvement in today's activities, and most importantly, for their efforts in the past to keep our nation free and safe. Please stand for the playing of taps and remain standing for the retiring of the colors.
Please be seated. As we conclude our program, I would like to thank Jordan Weikert for speaking to us, the middle school band and chorus for their outstanding performance, our Boy Scout Troop number 71 for the flag folding demonstration, and Mrs. Bowman for organizing today's Veterans Day program. Most importantly, though, veterans, on behalf of our students, staff, community, and nation, I want to thank you for your service to our great country. At this time, I would like to invite all veterans and guests to join us in the PAC lobby for refreshments donated by Country Made and the Feed Mill. Veterans and guests, at this time, please join us in the lobby. Students and staff, please remain seated while our honored guests exit the auditorium. Thank you.